Hi, this is Krista Joy with Special Needs for Special Kids here with Lesson 1 for September. And September is all about classroom management. So I'm going to start off with one of the most trickiest parts, I think, of classroom management, and that is transitions. Transitioning kids from one location to another, from one activity to another. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that we're thinking about always those sensory needs that our students have. And we want to make sure that we are feeding and supporting those sensory needs without overstimulating them. And that can be a really delicate balance, especially with this particular transition strategy. So keep that in the back of your mind. Sensory needs and overstimulation is going to be something that you're going to have to watch out for. So what is my favorite transition strategy? It is using music. And I know I've talked about this a little bit before and have a blog post, but I want to go a little deeper here. And I have a great download for you off to the side that will help pull this all together for you. So first, let's talk about some of the things that you should do when using music, or if you choose to use music as a transition strategy. First, I would recommend starting the music once the kids, either all of them or most of them, are at the table or the group teaching area. This has three big advantages. One, when the music starts, if you have some stragglers, it really encourages them to oh my gosh, I don't want to miss a song, and gets them to the table quicker. Two, it gives them about 2.5 minutes to get all those wiggles out and get their bodies settled and ready to listen and focus. Three, it gives you a chance to get all of your supplies and materials ready for the lesson. So starting the song as the very first activity really of your group lesson is a great strategy to try. So second thing that you should do when using music, I think, is trying to incorporate some type of manipulatives with the song. This goes back to that overstimulation issue that can occur. So if you're doing perhaps an ABC song, for example, using something very simple, like my students always had an ABC chart. This is not the one we use, but it's very similar. We had an ABC chart and they could point along as we sang. For money, I made a very similar chart. I pretty much made a song board to go with my songs. I tried using actual manipulatives, but shoo, what a mess. They kind of went all over. Not a very good strategy, way too much stimulation. You may have students that can handle that, but you'll just have to feel that out. But I liked having something that they could follow along with the song with their fingers, because I did not have a video component to my music. This was purely an auditory experience for the students. So this just helped them kind of focus on what we were doing and help them to participate in the level that they were able. Three, and I know this is a big soapbox of mine, but using age-appropriate songs as much as possible is so important. So I have in the comments below, you'll see I actually found a song on YouTube, an ABC song that is sung by Usher, and it's actually kind of a cool rendition that I think older kids would actually not find too weird. Now, I'm not sure how much you would be teaching ABCs in middle and high school, but there are plenty of age-appropriate options that you can find on YouTube that will help to kind of foster that maturity level that we're looking to develop in our students. For example, one of the songs that I found, I'll give you the link to, is a wonderful song all about immigration. It's a parody off a Justin Bieber song, but it's a great catchy tune, and you can find lots of those things if you teach older kids to find some more age-appropriate stuff. So that is number 3. Number 4, consider the tempo of the songs that you're choosing. So it's going to take a while to figure out your kids. Some years I had students that it didn't matter. They were good no matter if it was a fast tempo, slow tempo, or whatnot. But one particular student I had for a couple years could not handle a rap song. He would hear a rap song and he turned into a totally different individual. That was not something I really wanted to see or deal with. He just thought he was too cool for school, and it just kind of set us off on a bad foot. So I had no rap songs for a couple of years. But just think about the tempo. Again, we don't want to overstimulate them with this transition activity, but we also want to make it engaging and fun. So you don't want just classical music. You want something that's going to be kind of upbeat and enjoyable for them. Number 5 is technology. You have to think about, well, what kind of technology am I going to use to deliver this music to my students while I'm teaching this lesson? When I was teaching, I had a good old CD player and CDs. That's all I had. Nobody had a smartphone at that point. Luckily, I was in an elementary school, and I could go borrow CDs from all the teachers, especially kindergarten at that time, and I had plenty to choose from. But today, with smartphones, so much easier. So I would suggest, and I put this in the picture, I have this like little Bluetooth speaker at home that I use all the time. It was really inexpensive on Amazon. You can connect this to your phone, and then you can access your songs on YouTube and play it through your speaker. So this is a great option if you don't want to actually have the visual or video component of the song and just the auditory, which is all I did, and it worked out actually just great. So let's think about those 5 things that are important to think about if you are going to use music as a transition strategy. 1, start it once all or most of the kids are at the table. 2, if you can incorporate manipulatives like a songboard, that's great. 3, try and use age-appropriate songs as much as possible if you're teaching in older grades. 4, be mindful of the tempo of the music and gauge how your kids react, and then choose songs later based on their reaction. We don't want to overstimulate them. And then 5, think about what kind of technology you're going to use in order to deliver this music. And you may choose to play it on a smartboard or whatever technology you have via YouTube. Awesome. I didn't have that option, and honestly, I think the visual would have been a little much for my kids. So the auditory, like I said, just worked fine. So let me just give you 2 things that I would suggest you not do, and they were based on my own personal experience of trying them many times, as well as observing some other special education teachers as a consultant. I saw this done a lot, and I don't know, you may have a different experience. It did not work for me. And that was using music to transition that it's time to change the activity. So instead of using music as the first part of your lesson, of your group time, they're already physically transitioned. I've seen teachers try and like go up to the front of the room and they'll hit the play button on the CD player, and then that means the kids are supposed to stop whatever they're doing and go and check their schedule or however your classroom management runs and go to the next activity. My kids were always dancing around. They thought it was party time. It just did not work very well for me, and I never really saw it work well for other special education teachers. I know that they use that a lot in regular ed, and I think that's where I was trying to adapt it from, but I would recommend using it once the students are already at the place you're going to teach the group lesson. The other thing that I would caution you about is that this is not a magic wand, right? You have to actually teach this as a strategy. So don't be discouraged when you first try it and all of a sudden kids are jumping out of their seats and dancing at the group table. Very likely to happen. And you need to think about and talk about with the other adults in your room, how are we going to handle that when that happens? There's several things that worked really well for me. I had a visual sit down card that I could hold up as a reminder for them to sit down. I also sometimes stopped the music as a cue that their behavior was not appropriate and therefore the music couldn't continue. I did have a couple students, and I said in the comments below, one happened to be my son, who I had in my class for a year or two, who really handle a song being stopped in the middle. It was a sensory thing. It did not go well. So you just have to gauge, if that's a problem. And I've seen that in other students as well. So think about your strategy. Talk about it with the other adults in your room. How is this going to look? How are you going to teach it? Because when you teach it with one song, it generalizes so nicely. So here's what I went ahead and did for you. I really liked to have my transition song relate to the subject material I was getting ready to teach. So if we were getting ready to do a foundations lesson I had an alphabet song. If we were getting ready to do telling time, I had a song about telling time. And nowadays on YouTube, it's amazing what you can find. So I have spent hours this week combing through YouTube and my old lesson plans, trying to find as many songs as I could to go with the individual units in my store. And I have those all on a spreadsheet for you. So if you're going to want to use a strategy, you plan on teaching immigration, there's a great song that you can use to start that lesson on immigration. And I like, yes, it's the same song every lesson, every day that we teach that lesson. So if that lesson plan is 22 days long, then we're going to listen to that song 22 times. You will get tired of it way before your students ever will. But that repetition also really helps calm them and helps get them. So don't be worried about that repetition. So I hope that you will enjoy that download. It took me a lot of time, but I think it's really valuable, and I know you could finish it yourself, but it'll save you a lot of time as far as just being able to grab a YouTube link and throw it in your phone and you're ready to go. It's just one thing you're going to have to worry about when planning that lesson. So if you're going to use music as a transition strategy, remember, once they're sitting at the table, try and incorporate some manipulation if you can. Use age-appropriate music if possible with older students. Be mindful of the tempo and think about how you're going to incorporate technology to happen. So I hope you enjoyed this first lesson for classroom management. We have lots more stuff coming up this month that I hope you will find exciting. And if you have any comments or you have tried something similar or have more suggestions about how to use music or other transition strategies in the classroom, please leave a comment below. We need to be able to learn from others and not reinvent the wheel. So I hope you all have a wonderful of your Sunday or whenever you are watching this, and I will be back next week.